everyone, thank you for joining us. Today we're here at the Royal Shakespeare Company with Richard Adams, and he's going to introduce himself and his role now.
Now?
Yes!
Well, my role is Consultant Digital Programme Manager, so I'm here for a fixed term of a couple of years. I'm working in communications, marketing and with IT, in different levels across things to try and help manage the transformation of the business that's off screen, if you like, that's off stage, backstage. So I'm not involved with the creative digital stuff on stage. A key project recently has been switching the new version of the website on, which is iterating as we speak, following the best agile methodologies.
So Richard's going to be talking about his career at the RSC, or his role at the RSC, and his career so far. So if you have any questions, do get them in and I'll ask them as we go along. So Richard, what advice would you give to those interested in working in your role or in your role at the RSC?
Well, I think in all of these roles, one thing I should say is I've done, over the last several years, I've done a whole lot of different consultancy roles. I've worked at Microsoft Studios, Aviva, B-Sky-B, and now the RSC, so I've been in some quite different organisations, all of which are in similar types of roles. They've had slightly different job titles, but the roles have been very similar, and those roles have been around innovation and strategy using available digital technology to improve businesses in different ways. So one of the things I did at Aviva was an amount of rapid prototyping. At Sky, I project managed and worked on the creative design and design of apps and the electronic program guide. Microsoft Studios, a lot of work around games. Studios is the division that has Xbox, part of the Xbox setup. And here, I've been brought in to do a lot of communications related things.
So what would you say are the three main key skills for your role?
Thick skin, clear vision, and an ability to see the big picture while being able to drill down to relative detail. I don't think there's anyone alive who can see the big picture and pick up every dot on an I or every cross on a T, but I do have to understand that when I'm doing this, it has these effects. And I have to think in terms of time as well. What effect will that have 2 years down the line? So I would say general intelligence, but also tenacity, because also when you go into these types of roles, you tend to work across departments, and there are lots and lots of different stakeholders, and some of those stakeholders can be, it's not the case here, but some of them can be unwilling to change, and really don't want to change, and don't see why they should have to. And so there's a great deal of actual, which is unusual for anyone out there who knows me. I always find myself sort of being very diplomatic, but I think, I almost use up my quota of diplomacy when I'm at work and don't bother when I'm out of work.
Okay, so what attracted you to working at the RSC? Because you said you've got so much experience elsewhere as well.
Yeah, I've been working in digital for over 20 years. I started back in the early 90s at a company called 2way TV, making interactive television programmes, interactive versions of Emmerdale, and various other programmes. And over the years I've worked in lots of places, but when I was looking around after Microsoft for the next contract, I had a couple of contract offers came up. One was the RSC and one was with a data company, and the data company actually was going to be nowhere near as much fun. And one thing I'd never done, I think, is worked in a pure arts organisation. Now, that's despite me having a fine art background, being a reasonably skilled painter, digital artist, which is where I started with computers all those years ago. But I've never worked in an out-and-out, full-on arts organisation. And the opportunity to work in a Premier League arts organisation, it's difficult to turn that down.
Do you think that combined with your digital experience combined with your fine arts sort of background really pushed you to want to take this role specifically?
Well, I think this role was one where I knew I'd be working with people who understood the cultural side of things, clearly, because we're a cultural and arts organisation. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes some of the roles I've taken, I've worked with people who really don't understand culture. Mm-hmm. and don't understand the effects of what you're doing and things like that. Because for them, often, you know, a job is a job, and they just come in, they do a job, and they often don't see direct results and don't see knock-on effects as readily. But in an organisation like this, there are people I can talk to about creative things and technical things, and that's a rare thing.
So, if anyone doesn't know what we're doing, we're currently at the Royal Shakespeare Company and we're having a chat with Richard Adams, who is Consultant Digital Program Manager. I got it all out. And he's talking about his career so far and his role at the RSC, and he did speak about a project he's been working on, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. So what was your first encounter with the RSC? Was it your contract, or did you have an encounter before?
Oh no, I'd been to see plays in the 90s,
So,
but I hadn't been in the 2000s because I had children, and when you have small children you just don't go out anymore, sadly. Plus, you know, I live down in Surrey, I live quite a way away, so it's not like a local theatre, so it's a big night out thing. And of course, when you live near London, there is a tendency to see things in London a bit more easily. But then this came up, and it came through an agent who contacted me out of the blue. So I didn't know anyone here, didn't ring up, didn't ask. And I just thought, yeah, you know, once they offered me something, I thought, I'd be mad not to.
So, could you tell us about any of the projects that you have been working on, or will be working on, and their impact?
Well, yeah, there are two or three key ones, I suppose. One is live information and data dashboards and things like that, so helping to get to the point where people in the business can understand what the business is actually doing at any given point. That's an ongoing project.
Just had hi from Catherine. Hi Catherine, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, yeah. Second thing, we've just switched the new website on. That's one project. So in that project, that's been a significant project because that's involved changing the content management system, dealing with different types of hosting, moving over to the cloud. Lots of architectural changes have happened in the background, and on top of that, we've had to edit, prune the copy, change the way the website was built. The previous website was getting a little bit old, so it was built in an old way. This is a lot more fluid. It has to work on mobile devices, etc. And, you know, to a large extent, you know, it works. The one thing I've been very keen on from the start is trying to be more agile in the way we've done things. So what we've done is we've got to a point where we switched it on, knowing that we will continually modify. So taking a classic agile approach of continual shipping. So the website you've got live now, I would think, and I would hope, won't look quite the same in a couple of years' time. It won't, you know, modifications will happen. As we find odd things that we should have found before through testing and things, we fix them. And so it's an ongoing program, but yeah, it works, and I think it's highly readable. It makes use of fantastic imagery. We've got, you know, the RSC here has got some fantastic cultural artifacts, images of famous actors, and you know, impactful shots from major productions, and the website now really makes a virtue of that.
So, could you tell us what's been the best thing about your job?
Well, I think there's a couple of things actually. There isn't one single thing. One is working in a world-class cultural organisation. So when you talk to people, they're intelligent. That's a great thing to have when you work. The other thing is, I suppose, the fact that what I've done is having a direct impact across departments, and I'm actually working cross departments as well. I'm not stuck in one area, so I'm getting to see the business.
So what advice would you give to anyone interested in going along the same path as you, or into an organisation like you?
Well, a couple of days ago I shared an update on LinkedIn. I write quite a few articles and stick them on LinkedIn when I'm sort of thinking things through. But I just put a short update on there saying that I thought, you know, and I began to wonder if maybe classic things like MBAs have had their day. And I think it's interesting that me being a genuinely first generation creative technologist, the longer I've gone in my career, the more I have exploited my arts background at the same time as the technology. And I think there's a danger you can focus one or too many ways. And the type of role I'm in finding that balance is very hard. But I will say it's very hard when you meet people looking for contracts and jobs to convince them that actually that's valuable, because often a lot of people are not used to finding people who've got both technical understanding and genuine creative understanding. But going ahead, so much of what we do technically is either incredibly specialist, proper mathematics. For instance, at Microsoft Studios, we were looking more for computer scientists, not game programmers, things like that, because it was becoming more scientific. The level above that, I think, is increasingly relying on creativity, because there's a lot of tools out there that you can use easily to do things. There are tools I've worked with that could generate the code for me. So I had a system a couple of years ago that wrote the code for what I wanted to do for me. It was a piece of code that wrote code, and so on. And so as those types of systems come into play, I think it's not a question of whether you can code or not. You need to be able to understand the logic behind coding and understand technology. But the creative application and the insight is the key thing.
So we've had a question. I think the Twitter account name was WNO tweet. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But the question was, what's been the most surprising thing about your role?
At the RSC, I don't think anything's actually surprised me. I think, like any business, there's a realization that they need to transform. And I think the RSC is transforming in lots of ways and making itself hugely relevant and keeping its relevance and all of that stuff. And I think in the background, the stuff I'm working on in the back office and all of that, similarly, there's a recognition that transformation is needed. I think I'm pleased rather than surprised that everybody's so nice.
It's evil people.
No, but when you go to work, sometimes you have a lot of massive departmental agendas and things like that, and that hasn't happened here, and that's a real pleasant surprise. I have worked in some places where there have been evil departments.
So, thank you for answering that question.
Yeah.
But just going back to what you were talking about, do you think that to get into a digital role or pursue a digital career, you would now need to go to university, or do you think it can happen without?
You do need to go to university, and the reason I say that is university gives you the time to understand things without it being critical. I think you can easily start a business and just run a business now. That's wonderful. And you should, if that's what you want to do. There's nothing stopping you. I think going to university has got its benefits because it gives you time to think beyond the immediate. Whereas when you're in a business, you look at the takings every day, and that's what's driving you. Go to university, you've got thinking time, but pick the university and the course very, very, very carefully. I've been involved in writing a lot of things and opening radical colleges. I worked with Mark Lewis to open the School of Communication Arts a few years ago, which was radical and had no teachers and things like this, and worked with a Wikified curriculum and was based on creativity but in the context of advertising. And I think there are courses and places like that around that offer the true mix of philosophy, science and creativity that you need. And I say science includes technology. But there's a big push to get people out there doing STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, what have you. And I think that's laudable because people aren't doing enough of that. But if you want people to be truly educated and they only do STEM, then you are limiting them. And my answer to anyone who says, oh, that's wrong, is you look at any politician in Parliament, they have gone to schools where they have a very good broad education, including the arts, sciences and technology. None of them have gone to a place that only does STEM. And so yes, we should push STEM because it's important, but you should also push creativity. And in other words, go back to the notion of a good, rounded education. So when you do a course, choose a course where you know you will be pushed to think, where you know you will be pushed to explore impact of what you are doing, to understand the social context, the business context, and also understand the technology, because the technology you do have to understand.
Right, so we've been talking to Richard Adams, who is our, let me get it right again,
Go on, get it right.
digital program manager at the RSC, and he's discussed his role at the RSC here and his career. Thank you so much for your questions, and we will hopefully be able to bring you another Periscope. You're getting tons of hearts, Richard, can I just say?
Well, if anybody does want to answer a question, or, ask a question, please do.
Yeah.
You can find me online as well.
Yeah, he is online. I'm sure I've linked his Twitter in this Periscope, so you can go and have a look and ask him questions there. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Richard, for talking to us. Have a good day.